Good. All right. So I'm here with Scott Hanna, artist on Avengers vs. X-Men, and what are some other things you're working on?
I'm working on the Avengers and Green Lantern Corps as well as Avengers vs. X-Men. So.
Cool. Okay. Can you tell me a bit about why we? I'll go down your level. Can you tell me a bit about why you think people connect with superheroes?
There are a lot of reasons. There's frequently like the stereotype is the little wimpy kid who has this like dream version of themselves, which is very accurate. It helps give you ego and self-worth, and the reader is supposed to put themselves into the idea of the character. And so even if it's a character like Spider-Man who can do superhero things, he's still at home has a lot of the same personal issues that every kid has or every adult has. And so we try to be as universal as possible. And one thing I've seen of a character like Spider-Man, who I've worked on many times, because he doesn't have a face, he has a mask, anybody, girl, man, any race, any sex, any personality type can put themselves into that costume. So it's a cipher for your psyche, so Spider-Man is a perfect example that every character to a lesser or greater degree has some of that in it. And also for me, one thing that I always, as a child, I loved ancient Greek and Roman mythology, and superheroes are modern mythology. That it's as simple as that. If you look at them, whether it's a movie version, a comic book version, they are today's mythology, and the exact same reason we needed heroes and myths 2,000 years ago is why we still need them today, because we haven't really changed as people. We still have the same personality types and needs and desires and stuff, so we're really reflecting all that inner stuff that's in every person.
Cool, awesome. You kind of touched on something that would be my next question, which would be, when you look over the decades, our different artistic styles kind of change decade to decade, in like music and art appreciation, movies, things like that. Comic books, though, and with superheroes specifically, have been around for 70 years plus, and yet there have been some changes, but the heroes themselves have largely stayed pretty similar. What can you say about what makes superheroes kind of unique in that they can kind of stand the test of time?
Well, you're always trying to search for the iconic character, something that transcends time and lasts through history, essentially. And the best examples are obviously characters like Superman and Batman. That Superman is the embodiment of everything we think of as super, and it also came about during World War II, where we had like really strong definition of good and evil, right and wrong, and things get blurred, so sometimes it's difficult to keep a character like Superman constant and accessible to the new readers, and that's the job of the creators to keep it going. And Superman of today is not the Superman of 70 years ago. It's not the Superman of 50 years ago, where every generation or so we have to almost reinvent the characters to keep them current and accessible to everybody. But if they still have that iconic feel underneath, a character like Batman, you can do a funny version, you can do a serious version, you can do a really dark and gloomy, you can have a smiley, and it still works because it's such a visually strong character that you just look at the silhouette of Batman and you know it's Batman. He could be purple, he could be green. You look at the toy versions, there have been like a billion, and it's still Batman because the character design is just so strong, and it's so, again, he's the symbol that you recognize right off the bat. Superman symbol is so a tremendous amount of it actually has to do with the design of the character. Again, Spider-Man, Batman. The reason these guys are so popular and have stood the test of time is, yes, there are good stories involved, but the design of the characters are brilliant, and you can't go back. And just look at how many replicas there have tried to have been, but you can't beat the original. It's like, yeah, you can do 20 different versions of Batman and call them other things, but it's not the same as Batman. It never will be because he's got the pointy ears and the cape. It's like, sorry, you can't beat that.
Yeah, right. Awesome. Cool. Great. Then one final quick question. If you had a choice between super strength and the power of flight, which would you choose and why?
I've always had a dream of flying. So I actually, when I was young, I always drew angels, that winged people, because just that idea of freedom and flight to me is exhilarating. I've never had a fear of heights or anything like that. Even when I am flying, I've gone up in gliders because it's unpowered flight. So the dream, yeah, flying definitely for me beats strength. Strength is an aggressive thing, and I prefer to be an observer. As an artist, you want to look at things and kind of separate yourself, and that's a perfect description of what flight is. You're up above looking at things, and you also look at things from a different perspective if you're not caught up in the turmoil of the mass of a crowd. If you're standing above looking at it, it's a way to analyze things, and as an artist, I'm always wanting to analyze and look at it and observe. So that, to me, that superpower way beats being able to punch somebody.
Okay, great, awesome. Makes sense, yeah. All right, great, thank you so much. Thank you.